Okay, good morning. Good morning. All right. My name is Freddie Collier. I'm the planning director for the city of Cleveland, and I want to get a little bit more in depth and talk about some of the transactional things that are helping to implement some of the regional items that Hunter alluded to, but also really get into the notion of housing integrated with transit and this ideal of creating place. One of the things that we have a good opportunity to do here in Northeast Ohio is look to the past. The past reveals quite a lot for us because when we look at transit and we look at transit-oriented development, the city of Cleveland in Ohio is no stranger to housing next to transit and amenities next to transit. We have a couple of key examples that are historic in nature in Shaker Square as well as Public Square. These two facilities really served as a model nationwide for how do you begin to integrate transit with housing, with retail, and create walkable communities. Most recently, you see things like the Flats East Bank, which you notice the rapid transit facility that goes out of Tower City Center and links the flats with higher density development as well as retail, are 21st century examples. And you're going to see some things that are going to take place in the inner ring suburbs. This is an aerial that kind of shows you the layout of Shaker Square. Shaker Square was very intentionally planned. And when you look at the four quadrants that's bisected by the transit, as well as the automobile opportunities, as well as new and emerging bicycle opportunities, this has stood the test of time. And it was able to evolve over time because it had the basics. And when you look at what we talk about being the basics, the housing, the retail, access to other areas of the city, and all done in a very tight, compact way. The city of Cleveland has developed in 2007 the Connecting Cleveland 2020 Citywide Plan, which is the comprehensive plan that helped us really to focus our efforts financially and development-wise over the last decade. One of the recommendations or policies from that plan was around transit-oriented development. And the objective was to target high-density development in proximity to transit stations and major bus stops in order to support public transit and strengthen the competitiveness of urban neighborhoods. And this is something that we're in the process of continuing to implement. This map is part of the Mayor's Neighborhood Transformation Initiative. Now, what this map illustrates is really an asset-based approach to how Cleveland's core city is going to regenerate. And what you see here in these red areas are areas where investment flags have been planted. We talk about downtown and the tremendous growth in downtown population. We talk about the Cuyahoga River Valley and all the investments that are being made from Irishtown Bend to Flats East Bank and others that are going to be coming online fairly soon. We often talk about the $200 million investment right out front here in the Euclid Corridor that links our central business districts to our arts, eds, and medical area out in University Circle. We also have been very diligent about focusing on our 8 miles of waterfront along Lake Erie. And I'd be remiss not to mention the $331 million that's being invested in the Opportunity Corridor as well as opportunities for our airport. Now, the reason why these are so significant because right next door to these areas of growth are areas of disinvestment, but they're also areas of opportunity. And one of the things that the Jackson administration is focusing on is those fringe areas and how do you begin to link the haves to the have-nots. And one of the ways that we intend to do that is through strategic corridor investments. One of those corridors is the East 105th, East 93rd Street corridor. The map is oriented sideways because this is a 7-mile stretch that we intend to link. As you can see here, to your right is north and to your left is south. So bear with me for a moment. If you look at the various blotches on that map, what they show is key development target zones along the corridor because transit is meaningless unless it connects you to something significant. In the middle there is University Circle. And one of the things that's so significant about the Thrive 105-93 project is it's really looking to improve transit efficiency, thereby connecting individuals and surrounding communities outside of University Circle to it. Let me give you a little background on this because the Opportunity Corridor overlaps this. And the Opportunity Corridor was proposed to have cul-de-sacs. One of those cul-de-sacs would have been at Quincy Avenue, cutting off the southeast section of the city, which would have been tragic for a lot of low-income populations. And one of the things that the mayor had charged us to do was really focus on, no, we're going to make those connections, and we're going to focus on the north-south connectivity, making sure that we link those areas to these areas of opportunity through quality transit. This map shows the citywide plans proposal for where we have TOD opportunities in the city of Cleveland. Given the rail lines that we have developed over the years and given our existing infrastructure, which means that we have really good bones for this, we're basically going to leverage land opportunities around transit stations. When we talk about how we leverage those opportunities, we have to think about walkability and compactness. What happens in a 5-minute walk from each of these stations? Can people live, work, shop, play in close proximity to where they live? The other component to this is that we know that it won't happen by happenstance. Regulation will be a very important part of this. And one of the things that we want to do to ensure that we get transit-oriented development is to ensure that the built form is higher density, that projects are built to the street, that they have the proper glazing or the proper transparency to promote that walkable environment and to create that safe feeling. Now, that's just not planner talk. These things have been known to have an economic development impact on communities, and a positive one. Now, I want to show you just a few examples of the opportunities that the city of Cleveland is planning for, seizing, and also implementing. This arrow here shows you the East 79th Street corridor, and what you see in red are the green and red line rapid transit corridors. This area is one of the most challenged neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland. Many of you may be familiar with the Kinsman East 79th neighborhood. And when you look at this area, you have 2 rapid transit facilities literally within spitting distance of one another. Not to mention, there's a $331 million investment that's going to bisect these 2 stations with an agglomeration of vacant land that could be leveraged to restore value to this particular community. And that's exactly what we intend to do. The city of Cleveland has obtained resources through work on the Opportunity Corridor for strategic land remediation, fiber connectivity, so that we can begin to create the land conditions so that we can attract businesses back to this neighborhood and thereby service populations in this neighborhood, as well as draw new job opportunities into this neighborhood. The other component that we're doing is really trying to organize land uses strategically. This area has a hodgepodge of land uses. And we're also looking at how much land that we can obtain and control. A good majority of this land that's in this footprint is controlled by either the City of Cleveland Land Bank or partners who we partner with on development in this area. These show the walk sheds around the rapid stations. So this represents a 5-minute walk. Now, the reason why it's not a circle and these lines are jagged, because you have to take into account the street grid. So when we think about a true 5-minute walk, when you have a street grid, you're not going in a straight line. You're going along street corridors. But this gives you an idea of where we have to focus our energies. So this is part of what the plan looks like. So as you saw in the previous slide, where you had tremendous vacancy, the goal is really to pack that in around those stations and reinvest in those parcels, leveraging land opportunities. Now, this is not pie in the sky, because there are anchor institutions as well as anchor companies that we can capitalize on. Orlando Baking Company, which has been a mainstay in the city of Cleveland, who has plans to expand. Also Maselli's Dairy, as well as the recent investment that CMHA has made in this particular neighborhood. So the mayor, the administration, intends to use bond money and other resources to really begin to reinvest in many of these areas, creating this transit-oriented development opportunity. This is a aerial that shows what this particular station would look like once this vision is realized. And the last thing I want to show you is that we are really being aggressive about site assembly and making sure that we can concentrate land uses in a way that creates opportunity to attract housing and other types of development into this area, leveraging the transit resource. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague to keep the conversation going.